Greetings, everybody. 'Tis I, 480 volts, and welcome to a very painful episode of 480 Reviews. Today, we're going to be looking at a Mega Man game. Now, wait a minute. I thought 480 loved Mega Man games, right? So, how could a Mega Man game be painful? Oh, that's right. We're going to be talking about Mega Man and Bass. If you're planning on playing this game, always make sure you have the proper provisions beforehand. Headache medicine is highly advised. Mega Man and Bass was developed for, of all things, the Super Famicom soon after the release of Mega Man 8. Apparently the game was intended for younger players who still owned a Super Famicom and didn't have a newer console like the PS1 or Saturn on which they could experience 32-bit Mega Man. Series producer Keiji Ifune says, even though trying to bridge out a new title on the Super Famicom was a little backwards at the time, we didn't want to make a half-hearted attempt at it. During development, Inafune required the team to make the game as hardcore as possible. So you wanted the game to be for younger players, but you also wanted it to be as hardcore as possible? Don't really see the logic there, but the game was released for the Super Famicom in Japan in 1998, and then in 2002, a Game Boy Advance port was released internationally. For the purpose of this review, I will be playing a fan translation ROM hack for the Super Nintendo. Why? Because the GBA's tight screen ratio cuts off a lot of the playing field and makes it difficult to see certain obstacles and enemies, and trust me, this game is painful enough on its own without needing any help. First, let's get into the story. Sometime after the events of Mega Man 8, a powerful robot named King sets out to take over the world. Proto Man attempts to stop him, but is severely wounded. King has no wish to harm other robots and spares Proto Man. Mega Man then sets out to stop him because that's what Mega Man always does in this situation, and Bass sets out to stop him so as to prove himself as the most powerful robot in existence, thus resulting in a temporary and unlikely alliance between Mega Man and Bass. After defeating King's 8 Robot Masters, Mega Man and Bass stand before the mechanical tyrant himself. Upon being defeated, King reveals that his creator was none other than Dr. Wily. Mega Man sets out to stop Wily because, well, it's kind of his thing, and Bass sets out to stop Wily as he feels his master has been using him for his own agenda. Well, yeah, no kidding, Bass, that's kind of the whole point of creating a robot in the first place. After Wily is defeated, Mega Man receives a letter from King who has survived the destruction of the castle fortress in hopes that the two of them can become friends. As for Bass, Wily tells him that he created King for the purpose of testing Bass to see who the most powerful robot was. Bass, feeling completely duped, renounces all loyalty to his creator and sets off on his own, vowing to one day destroy Mega Man, that being the only thing he feels he has left going for him. Being that he was initially created to do just that, you could argue that this desire is at the very core of his programming. As for Wily, well, both robots seem to just let him go free. Come on, Mega Man, have you learned nothing from the previous 8 games? Oh well. Overall, the story is nothing special, but I do like Bass's ending. Okay, let the headaches commence, because now it is time to talk about gameplay. For the most part, if you played a Mega Man game before, you know what to expect. Like the previous 2 Mega Man games, as well as the X games, this one begins with an intro stage, the boss of which is the Green Devil, and possibly its easiest form yet. Then it's off to the select screen to take out our Robot Masters. Here's where tradition is suddenly broken. You can't start with just any Robot Master. The stages are placed in a sort of grid connected by linear pathways. The intro stage forms a path leading to the first 3 Robot Master stages, and beating them opens up pathways to the other 5. Now, each Robot Master still has their own weapon, which is used as a weakness for a different Robot Master, and the weakness order does go in a complete circle, but I find it odd that your stage choices are so limited at first. Still, I suppose it's not too different from 7 and 8, in which only 4 Robot Masters are available from the start. Another odd thing is that while 6 of the 8 Robot Masters are original, 2 of them are reused from Mega Man 8, Astro Man and Tengu Man to be exact. I never could quite figure that one out. Did the developers seriously completely run out of Robot Master ideas? All of the oddities aside, this isn't really that frustrating, and I did promise you pain, so let's talk about the level design. This game takes it out of you, man. There are parts where certain platforms are just barely within your reach. You can make them, but you have to be pixel perfect with your jumping. If only Mega Man had some sort of high jump or a double jump. And the enemy placement can be pretty sadistic as well. Sometimes you'll encounter a group of enemies stuffed into a very tight nook just below you. Since Mega Man has never been able to figure out how to shoot anything anywhere but directly in front of him, more often than not, you'll have to jump down into the fray and take a bunch of hits. I realize that some of your special weapons can easily help you in some of these situations, but still, you'd think it wouldn't be too difficult for Mega Man to just... All in all, the level design is plain unfair at times. Seriously, this brings back memories of Super Mario Lost levels. Oh, but 480, where's the pain? This doesn't seem that bad. You're right, so let's move on to what you've all been waiting to see me rage over, King's Fortress. King's Fortress is split into 3 stages. The final area kinda takes it back to the old hardcore days where weapon energy does not refill between stages, although you do return to the stage select screen after each stage. Also, no matter which King stage you've completed, if you save and reload, you'll have to go through the whole fortress again. King Stage 1. Not too difficult, just be careful with that pulley boss. King Frickin' Stage 2. This stage is split into 3 smaller areas, each with a boss fight at the end. The first boss, the King Roller, is actually pretty fun, requiring you to destroy 3 specific parts of the machine. The second boss is this piece of garbage right here, the King Jetter. Oh my goodness, what is this? Why is this? Why is this even a thing? Who in their right mind actually thought this was a good idea? Let me give you the lowdown. First, this is an auto-scrolling fight across little platforms over a bottomless pit, so you're constantly having to make carefully aimed and timed jumps. Second, the weak spot is the dome up top, but it's a very small target box, and if your aim is even slightly off, your shot bounces off the machine. A problem with a lot of bosses in this game, I might add. Third, this guy occasionally shoots a mechanical fist that can destroy the platforms you're standing on or about to jump to. And just like before, sometimes this results in you having to make a jump that is just barely possible. Fourth, this guy occasionally charges up his red beam, which fills most of the screen and hurts like heck. Sure, all it takes is a well-aimed remote mine to destroy the beacon, which does take a while to charge, but there's no indication that the weapon is charging other than the beacon suddenly and silently opening up, so if you're not paying attention because maybe you're too busy doing other things like, oh I don't know, trying not to fall to your doom below. Fifth, this guy occasionally fires items at you encased in bubbles. Most of them are weapon or health packs, which is actually pretty compassionate all things considered, but every once in a while he drops one of these red mines, touching or shooting which doesn't damage you or slow you down, but explodes in a flash of light, blinding you for a second and a half or two. Now that may not seem like much under normal circumstances, but with the precision jumping you're doing to avoid the pit below, yeah, that flash can seem to last for an eternity. Obviously try to avoid the bombs altogether, but if you should detonate one, the key is to keep your hands moving in the same rhythm that they've been, drawing on your last visible memory of that next platform. Basically don't tense up. This is actually not as hard as it sounds, but still, that flash of light can really get the old heart beating. 6. After you've finally defeated this guy, he takes several seconds to explode, and the screen continues to scroll, and you must maintain your precision jumping, and your hand is probably sore by now, and one wrong move means you have to do this fight all over again, and I hate this boss! Remember when I said that the devs made this game for younger players? Keiji, my man, why don't you just admit that you like making children suffer? The third fight is the final fight with King, which is again split into 3 phases, if you haven't noticed the pattern here. Thankfully, these fights aren't too difficult. After King is defeated, you can begin King Stage 3, which is really Wily Stage 3. The 8 Robot Masters are here for their second round of butt-whooping, but instead of one big room with teleporters allowing you to fight them in any order, they're all separated by linear corridors, not unlike Mega Man 1 or X1. Wily himself is split into 2 phases, neither of which are terribly difficult on their own, but like most Mega Man games, they're back-to-back with no healing break in between, and you'll most likely take a lot of hits between the two, and like Mega Man 8, there are no E-tanks in this game because who the heck needs those stupid things, am I right? Now here's the really big middle finger. Everything I've talked about is with regards to playing as Mega Man, who controls just like he has in previous games, being able to slide and charge up his Mega Buster. What's it like playing as Bass? Well, since you asked, Bass cannot slide, but he can dash along the ground, not unlike Mega Man X. He can also double jump. He can double jump. So when you're going through some of those really intense platforming sections and Mega Man has to be like really pixel perfect with his jumping and Bass can just... As for Bass's weapon, the Bass Buster, he can't charge up a single blast, but he can shoot a constant stream of rapid fire, which is pretty cool. And he can shoot in multiple directions, like 45 degrees up or down, or even straight up. So when you get to those areas where there's an enemy or group of enemies below you, and Mega Man has to jump down there and take a bunch of hits, and Bass can just... Oh, and he can use special weapons from Robot Masters just like Mega Man can. Here's why this is frustrating to me. Playing the game is significantly easier when you're playing as Bass than with Mega Man. Now, if playing as Mega Man felt like a well-constructed challenge that demands skill from the player, I wouldn't mind so much, but playing as Mega Man is stupid hard. Like making it through tough sections feels more like an accident than an accomplishment, while playing as Bass feels much more natural. It feels like the level designers only had Bass in mind when they made these stages and never once considered Mega Man's moveset. See, when it comes to games that center around 2 different characters who are similar enough but ultimately have their own unique movesets, I think the holy grail here is Sonic 3 and Knuckles. This game does a wonderful job of designing stages that complement both players equally. Sonic can go places and do things that Knuckles can't, and vice versa. This game, on the other hand, was clearly only made with one character in mind while giving almost no consideration whatsoever to the other guy. There are only a few areas where the game actually complements Mega Man. One is his default Buster. Did you know that Mega Man can shoot through walls? If you're like me, you probably never noticed this or gave it a second thought, but that's something that he's been able to do since the very first Mega Man game. Bass can't do that. So there are very few specific instances in which Mega Man has an easier time dealing with certain enemy placements than Bass. Also, the final phase with King adds a platform that Mega Man can jump onto and get a clear shot at the target that is completely absent when you play as Bass, who of course can double jump. What's really cool is that you can use this platform as a shield for some of King's attacks. The last thing that favors Mega Man is the shop, which functions just like it has in the previous 2 titles, where Auto can make special items for you from bolts you've collected. Bolts are dropped from enemies just like they were in Mega Man 7 and come in 2 different sizes. Mega Man is definitely able to buy way more upgrades than base. Not all of them are useful. Like Mega Man 8, there is no Rush Coil or Jet, but you can buy Rush Heal, Bomb, and Search, which I don't find particularly useful. There's also an upgrade that lets you charge your Mega Buster faster. The best one in my opinion is the Auto Heal, where your health slowly regenerates while you stand idle, although it does so very slowly. As for base, the only cool thing he really gets is the treble adapter, where he fuses with treble, allowing him to fly. This sounds great on paper, but it uses up weapon energy rather quickly, and you don't want to run out over a bed of spikes or a bottomless pit. Then there's some upgrades they can both equip, such as the damage reduction chip, the special weapons ammo reduction chip, the energy balancer, and so on. In short, if you're planning on playing this game for the first time, do yourself a favor and start with base. You'll have a much easier time, although there are still some bullcrap moments with him. Yes, Burner Man, I am talking to you. This guy is a royal pain in the ear no matter who you fight him as. You also may notice shiny CDs tucked away in certain parts of Robot Master stages. These are collectibles. Each one is a brief summary of a different character from classic Mega Man's games. Mega Man himself, Dr. Light, Roll, Proto Man, Eddie, Beat, Rush, Auto, Dr. Wily, King, Bass, Treble, and of course every Robot Master ever faced in games 1 through 8, including this game, as well as many of the in-game enemies. There are 100 discs in the game, and you'll need to play through the game as both Mega Man and Bass to collect all of them. While I have gotten them all in the past, I did not attempt to do so in this run because some of them require absolutely insane stunts to reach, and this ibuprofen bottle says I should only take 1 tablet every 6 hours, so yeah. If you're curious as to every file, just look it up on the internet. This game's graphical quality is not as polished as Mega Man 8, obviously, more along the lines of Mega Man 7. That being said, this game's art style and aesthetic design is pretty much identical to Mega Man 8. The music was composed by Toshihiko Horiyama, Naoshi Mitsuda, and Akari Kaida. Most of it sounds pretty good, sort of reminiscent of Mega Man 8 in terms of style, but similar to 7 in terms of production. Overall, it definitely sounds very Mega Man-y, if you will. So at the end of the day, do I recommend this game for you? Absolutely not! It is nothing but a stressful ordeal that is barely worth your time, but if you absolutely must play it, I highly suggest starting as Bass. Playing as the Blue Bomber is such a chore, but at long last, I finally got this stupid game behind me and I never have to play it again for the rest of my life if I don't want to. Not gonna lie, I actually feel about 10 pounds lighter knowing that this game is over with. Anyway, if you enjoyed this review, please consider subscribing to the channel if you haven't already done so, and please consider checking out my music on Spotify and iTunes if you like uplifting trance. Links for everything in the description. As always, you guys have a fantastic day, and I'm going to go attempt to sleep off this throbbing headache I now have. Pieces.